Sheamus Cornelius, CEO, founder, driving force behind Danakali, but actually, the man that I know personally who knows more about China, especially a miner's context on China, than anybody else. Thanks for coming back to the Italian Riviera.
Thanks, Simon. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Pleasure. Thank you on behalf of Cat Calls and Arlington Rapallo. Sheamus, what for you has been important since you were last here a year ago? What's changed and what does it look like in the next year?
Well, a lot has changed. So we listed on the NSX.
We being Danakali.
We being Danakali, listed on the NSX. We've applied for a number of projects, including one in Eritrea.
And the NSX is the
National Stock Exchange in Australia. It's the second exchange.
Right. A bit like the CSC in Canada. Is it actually regulated? Can we say
It's 100% regulated by the same as the ASX.
Okay.
And funnily enough, the CSE is taking it over. So probably by the end of this month, it'll be 100% owned by the CSE.
That's new information.
And funded by them. Yeah, no, it's public, but no one pays attention. So that's why no one knows about it. But yes, it's...
How many Australian companies are on the NSX?
Oh, about 100.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so it's smallish. And what was the reason you're on the NSX, not the ASX?
We had to delist from the ASX because it didn't suit our purposes anymore. They basically thought we were a cash box.
Okay.
We disagreed strongly with some of their rulings and their application of the listing rules. And in the end, it was better not to keep fighting, but just to list and give our shareholders an opportunity to trade anyway.
Okay.
So that's why.
So you're coming back to the ASX?
At some point, we'll come to potentially a different exchange. It doesn't have to be the ASX.
Okay.
Our focus is now outside of Australia, back in Eritrea, in Saudi Arabia, and a couple of other African jurisdictions.
Okay.
And that's driven by our shareholders. Our biggest shareholders, they want us to do that. So our largest single shareholder is AFC, Africa Finance Corp. Our second largest is Well Efficient, which is a Chinese private group. And our third largest is me. And so I think that we all agree it's better to focus back in Eritrea because we were successful there. We think we have a big advantage over other people there, which is great. And then Saudi, we've got a really good joint venture there. And those guys are very interested in Eritrea and the other African jurisdictions that we're going to.
So if you think about, how do you define Danakali and your competitive advantages? What are they?
I think most obviously it starts with having $30 million in the bank. Okay. That's a competitive advantage against our peer group. Yeah. Second, we gave $164 million back to shareholders last year.
Wow.
So a lot of people appreciate that. Yeah. And I think that's a good sign. Thirdly, in Eritrea, and I think other African jurisdictions that we know, we have an understanding of risk and how to manage any risk. And we know there's a giant gap between what people think the risks are and what they really are. So, in market terms, the risk is massively mispriced.
Right.
And the rocks are fantastic. So you start with the rocks. Right. If you're an explorer or a miner.
About rocks in Eritrea?
Rocks in Eritrea.
Okay.
The rocks are fantastic.
Yeah. And a quick recap, if you would indulge me. So, Danakali's success with the Colluli SOP projects.
Yep.
How long did that take to then ultimately return a whole bunch of capital to shareholders, and how do you do it again?
Okay, so I joined the board in 2013 when Danakali was in a difficult situation. We sold it in 2023 and netted 200 million. Of which we gave 164 back.
Can you do that again?
I'd like to carry it all the way through. So there are many different challenges with SOP. First of all, when we started talking about it, no one knew what it was.
Oh, I'm about to say, can you actually describe?
Okay. Sulfate of potash, okay. K2SO4. Okay. So even when you speak of potash, people think of MOP, yes, which is KCl, potassium chloride, which is the Canadian, the Russian, the Belarusian, and pretty much every other potash in the world. SOP is a specialty product. It's a smaller market. So we had to explain first what was potash. Right. Second, within that framework, what was SOP? And then thirdly, why it was better. And because the market for SOP it's a very opaque bilateral market. So it was very hard for people to get a feel for what it was worth, who bought it, how it was traded. So this time we're going to go for gold and copper because it's basically the other end of the spectrum.
Sure.
Everybody knows what gold is. Everybody knows what copper is. Everybody knows how to price it. And that's completely unlike SOP. So and I think for juniors, gold is the best metal if you want to turn into a producer. Right. The records show that, right? There's more explorers who turn into gold producers than any other metal by miles. Yep. And gold's hot, so it's easy to talk about. We like copper too.
You know what? People never say to me, Simon, what's your favorite SOP idea?
Exactly, right? Exactly.
But they do say, what do you like in gold? What do you like in copper?
Yep. And what's undervalued, what's emerging, what's coming up, where should I look that others aren't looking yet? Those questions happen. They never happen in SOP or MOP for that matter.
So in terms of Eritrea, and you mentioned Saudi Arabia, we can talk about what are the opportunities in those two countries.
Okay, so they have the same rock package, right? The Arabian Nubian shield is on both sides of the Red Sea. It comes up through Eritrea and then it's basically split by the Red Sea. So the western side of Saudi Arabia is the same rock package. And even though everyone thinks of Saudi Arabia as an oil place, right? They actually have a very developed mining industry. Their government is putting huge effort into developing the mining industry further. And they've got a lot of money to put behind it. Part of their idea, which I think is a great idea, is that obviously they want to explore Saudi Arabia, but they see themselves as a natural processing hub for African minerals. Because today, a lot of African minerals get on a ship and they go to China. If they could get on a ship, even part of them, and go to Saudi Arabia, which has abundant, cheap energy, it can get all the labor force it needs, and the land is everywhere and pretty much empty, why not build a processing hub?
You've got labor.
Yep, that's what you need. So their idea is, you know, I won't say copy China, but, you know, you can leverage off what China does by saying, all right, well, they get involved in the mine. They get involved in developing the mine because they want to process the materials. Right. The Saudis can do the same, and they want to do the same. Okay. And so our idea is we'll partner with them, we'll look for things inside Saudi Arabia, but equally, we will make friends there that can help us fund things in Africa, especially Eritrea. And so then we don't have to go through the long struggle of trying to educate capital markets about it. We can fund it in another way. And we already start with 30 million, so it's kind of it's a heads up, you know, advantage.
And I mean, you've got 10 years of history and successful exit to prove that you know how to do things in Eritrea. What about Saudi Arabia? That's a new jurisdiction for you and Danakali?
It is. It's a new jurisdiction, which is why we've done a joint venture. So we did a joint venture there with some friends that we actually met through Eritrea. A prominent family there called the Alkarashi family. And now they've brought in one of the princes who's now part of the joint venture. There's a lot of princes in Saudi Arabia, and there's some of them that are HRH and there are some of them that are, you know, HH. So we have His Royal Highness, Mohammed Al Saud.
Is having a prince as to ease things, the ease of permits or...
I think it's important. I mean, it's lovely to have a prince, right? I don't have too many princes who are my friends, so it's lovely. But he's a guy who knows how to get things done. And along with the Alkarashi family, we will work with them because they can tell us how to do things. Okay. Instead of going through the learning period by ourselves, we can actually ask our partners, okay, what happens? And, you know, one of the benefits that I have, I suppose, from spending so long in China is that I kind of realize it's better to ask the locals how to do things in their own country. I mean, I know a little bit about China, but I would never call myself an expert. Right. That's ridiculous. There's no such thing. I mean, it's just a false premise that you would have a foreign expert on another country. It's ridiculous. I mean, if someone was wandering around saying, I'm an expert on America, you'd laugh at them. Right. China is much older, much more complicated. Why would you let a foreign guy, just because he looks like me, be an expert? It's a joke. Yeah. But if you know a little bit more than other people, that's an advantage. Sure. So that's how I would look at it. And the same with our partners in Saudi. I'm going to ask them. They're the experts. And the same in Eritrea. I ask the Eritreans. They know what to do.
So before we go back, and maybe to finish, we'll talk about what is the Danakali program in the next year, Sheamus in Eritrea and Saudi. But before we go there, maybe on China, given I know that you spend a lot of time there, what do you think could surprise people about what comes out of China in the near term? Or is the misunderstanding, which is if people can understand what's really going on in China, is an opportunity for people to figure that out? What could surprise the world on China in the next year or so?
I would say there's a lot of things. But to me, the biggest change in China since I went there in 1993 and I started to live there, the biggest change is the confidence that now exists in China. And I use confidence specifically, not arrogance. They are very competent. They are very confident. And if you think about this, right, just imagine, we come from Australia, right? You lived in the UK for ages. Yeah. Just imagine how our countries would be if we had 40 years continuously of competent government and growth.
Yeah.
We haven't had that.
It's an oxymoron. Yeah.
Exactly. The Chinese have had that.
Right.
And so now, I think you can see it most obviously in the younger people. Pay attention to the Olympics.
Right.
When the Chinese athletes get up now and they've won a gold medal, they're answering interview questions in English.
Right.
They're very confident about who they are. They've won the gold medal because they've worked hard for it.
Right.
And I think that is the example. The reason why China is dominating so many areas of business and critical minerals, it's not an accident. They didn't stumble upon it. They planned for it.
Right.
They worked for it, and now they've achieved it. And they will continue to do that because that's how they operate. That's how their government operates.
Right.
That's how it gets its legitimacy. I know it doesn't have an election every 3 years and make all kinds of promises that it doesn't deliver. But what they do is say what they're going to do every year. They have 5-year plans. They report against what they do, whether they've succeeded or not.
Right.
And they get judged by that. So there's a massive level of competence. I put it this way. If you are a leader, a name leader in China, you are the equivalent of an Olympic gold medal winner in a sport, because that's how much better than a normal person you are. It's like Tiger Woods. He is much better than a normal person at golf.
Right.
Much incomparable.
Right.
A Chinese leader is much better
Yeah.
than any normal person or any normal Western leader.
Wow.
Because they have worked and they have achieved and they've been tested.
Because they were the best in their
And
cohort.
they deliver.
Right.
They constantly assessed, and if they deliver, they go up. If they don't deliver, they don't go up.
Whereas unfortunately in the most Western democracies, it's the opposite.
Yeah, we could talk about that endlessly.
We'll talk about that over a glass of wine later.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the surprise. I mean, my advice to everybody is get on the plane and go to Shanghai.
Right.
Just go there, and then get off the plane and go to a hotel, and look around.
And
Then you will be surprised.
And when I read headlines, as I think I read in the FT in the last few days, about China is going to challenge America's dominance in AI, which of course carries most of the S&P 500 stock market valuation, I should take that seriously.
Oh, I think it's absolutely serious. Absolutely.
Right.
Because if you want to challenge, put it this way, I don't think Chinese companies will ever achieve the substantial valuations
Right.
that many American AI companies have. But do I think they will be better at actually doing AI and using it? Absolutely.
Right.
They will absolutely be better. They'll never get the valuation of a,
It's like BYD versus Tesla.
oh, it's better.
Yeah.
And they'll be the same in AI.
Right.
And like I remember 20 years ago going with, one of the major Chinese companies to London to negotiate a possible purchase of some oil fields in Venezuela and Colombia. And there was an issue of some technical matter which I didn't understand because I was a lawyer. And the lead Chinese man said to me, as we were having dinner that night and we were talking about it, he said, "Oh, don't worry about that. If I want 100 PhD oil engineers and chemists by tomorrow, I can have them.
We'll figure that out.
And we'll figure that out, so don't worry about it." That's true. That's not a joke. Look at the numbers for STEM graduates.
Yeah.
They have more STEM graduates than the rest of the world combined.
Right.
So, I mean, it's ridiculous.
They're gonna win.
And
Already.
if they haven't already won, back to what I said, 40 years of competent government executing a plan and delivering growth and an improved outcome for the people. That's what they do. If we did that, we could compete with them.
Right.
But I don't want to bet my money on us doing that because there's nothing to suggest we can.
No, having spent a few years trying to get some housing renovations done here in Italy, I'm not going to bet on the Italian government either. And Sheamus, briefly, thank you for those amazing comments. I can't wait to hear your comments tomorrow at the Island of Rapallo. But what will Danakali do in the next year before you're back here in Saudi and in Eritrea?
Okay, so I fully expect in Eritrea we'll get our project license granted, and then we will start exploration, and we will work off a very good previous exploration history from more than 15 years ago, going back about 30 years.
It's copper gold.
Copper gold, known occurrences, artisanal mining, previous drilling. We will gather all of that and we will be on the ground drilling and getting results. In Saudi, I expect we'll get a project, thanks to the efforts of our partners. We're looking at a range of things.
50 or?
It's 80-20, so 80 Danakali, 20 our partners.
Okay.
That's the starting point, but it depends how the project is, right? Depending on what we are able to get. So that's the starting point. And then in Australia, in Western Australia, actually, we've applied for quite a lot of interesting grounds. We've got applications in, we're the priority applicant, so we'll get them, copper, gold, rare earths, lithium and so on. But I don't expect all of those to progress to grant. It's basically a very cheap option. If you know how to do it, it's very easy to apply. Then you can assess all the information and you can decide what you want to progress or not. But I strongly believe Eritrea is our priority, closely followed by Saudi Arabia. And, Australia is a good backup.
It doesn't sound like Danakali will issue any shares anytime soon.
Oh, no, I don't think we need to raise any money.
Ever.
Well, maybe. It depends. But 30 million goes a long way if you're prudent. We're very good. I think our track record says we're good at conserving capital. We'll be very methodical with our exploration. We'll get results as best we can, as quick as we can. And then, if the market gives us a high share price, we'll obviously raise money.
And the current market cap versus the cash is how much more?
Our current market cap is about 20 million. Our cash is 30 million.
Okay, so here the buy.
People can choose to buy if they want. I will be buying.
Okay.
Yeah, I have been buying and I'm going to keep going.
Well, I'm convinced. I'm going to buy some more.
Yeah, we should.
Thank you for coming back to the Arlington Republic. I look forward to seeing you in a year's time.
Thank you, Simon. Let's check what I can do against what I said.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, buddy.